Russ Carmichael, and this is Street Talk. And I want to thank all my viewers for letting me back into your homes. And tonight, I am really excited tonight. My co-host is back with me, Dominic, sitting across the way. But I have a lady that should have been on my show a long time ago. A mother, a Vietnam vet, a women's rights lady, a union organizer like father, for crying out loud. I mean, this is a tough lady, and if you've been watching your TV in the last week or so, you had to see. And that's Senator Cathy Osten is with me, and I am so pleased to have you here, Cathy. And I have to say, I happen to like the situation with Mr. Foley, because obviously I'm a Dan Malloy guy, and actually I like John McKinney over him if we're going to have a Republican, and I couldn't. I guess everybody's interested in that situation.
So the only one thing that I want to correct is I'm a Vietnam era veteran, and that matters to people who are in the service. So I want to make sure that. I joined the service in 1973. Right. I went active duty in '74, and I stayed until '78.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm a military brat actually. So
you know how people get we all get touchy about that. You want to make sure.
Yeah, I know.
You know, so I want to make sure that that people know that. I'm super proud of having been in the service, but I was never over in Vietnam.
And you were an officer in the service. You were sergeant, I believe, right?
Yep.
Right. So I know a little bit about your background. I do a little bit of research, and my youngest, my baby, my daughter is an officer in the Coast Guard. In fact, just come back from Syria. And with the situation with the nuclear stuff, not the immigration.
Yeah, we actually had to figure it out.
We had to figure out where she was. They weren't going to tell me.
No.
Right? But the real issue, I know a lot of my viewers, and of course we cover your area and our area a lot. We're really saw in the day the clip about your situation with Mr. Foley, who apparently we didn't know who you were.
No, I don't think he knew who I was.
He didn't care even.
No, that's probably more to the point.
Right?
More to the point. And I never think of myself as being so important that he should have known who I was. But if I was going into a town, I would find out who the elected leaders were on my way there. Not much more than that, but it probably would have been good for him to have one of his staff people find out who he was potentially going to run into
and deal with.
Correct.
And this was a man out looking for votes, and insulted the union guys. I mean, I did get upset with him insulting you, but I figured you were doing such a good job with him. I wasn't worried about that. But he insulted the union people, and I'm part of the. In fact, I'm a member of that one. I'm a member of several unions in that union, and he insulted. And the union guy was trying to tell him that he was friends with you. You've done all that work down there with all those people.
Right.
And the man wasn't listening. I thought he shot himself in the foot, and that's what I think. We're going to see election time, but.
Well, I know I was on the campaign trail with some of the other parties, so to speak, and they certainly had a lot of views on it, and saw that the way that he came across, not just to you as a political person, but to you as a person, they were appalled at it. I mean, literally appalled at the way that he was just going at you, and I couldn't understand how he would be that way when he's out in front of the cameras. Right. I mean, everybody's got their own cell phone and everything else. You have to know that you're in the public view, and just to point the finger the way that he did, just.
That's something like I do, but I'm not running for office.
You're not.
I have that reputation of doing stuff like that, especially if I get emotional or go crazy. But I was upset with that. But
I think we want to find out what was the true history behind Fusion, because.
Right.
So this is I'll just work from when I first got elected as first selectman in 2007, in November of 2007. And I was at the paper mill, meeting the general manager and the plant manager there. It was at that time called Cascade. The plant has actually had started out, it was a paper mill, and then Federal Paperboard built the plant where it is today and put the big piece of equipment in that everybody is talking about. It was bought out by International Paper, and International Paper assumed the environmental cleanups that had to happen on the site because paper mills are historically a dirty operating business. They recycle paper and make it back into paper again, but it's a process that has a lot of residue. That's when there was a hookup made from the plant over to Norwich Public Utilities in that time frame. And then it was bought out by a company called Carastar, who declared bankruptcy. And then they sold off the main part of the boxboard. They sold off the main part of the paper making mill, and they kept the boxboard shop. And when they came out of bankruptcy, they closed that part of the plant down. Then it was Cascade came in, and they had bought the main part of the plant, and they ran it very well and started doing a lot of the work. They put a lot of money into upgrading the facility, and it had been in significant disrepair. It was at that time that I started going up to DEP, then the DEP, to work with them to make sure that permits were done in a timely fashion. So I had started working with them. Then I worked on different pieces of legislation as first selectman, and working with their lobbyists up in Hartford to make sure that they were being treated fairly. We also worked with and met with then Senator Looney as majority leader with Senator Sprague, and so we worked really hard to make sure that they were represented up in Hartford. Norwich Public Utilities were raising their rates. We went over there and very much vehemently disagreed with some of the rate increases that were happening. And ultimately, and then Cascade sold out to what is Fussion now, to this investment firm which owns things like Reader's Digest, owned a dairy farm in Wisconsin and another plant down in Hebron, Kentucky. They closed the plant in Hebron, Kentucky, and they said to us, we were putting a lot of money into the plant here. We'd like to see if we can get a low-interest loan from the state on one of the programs that the state has. And so I worked with the state to have them apply for the low-interest loan. They were accepted for $3 million. They accessed $2 million and have paid back $300,000 so far. So they have a balance of $1.7 million. While all that was going on, the town of Sprague abated the charges on building permit fees that we could do for them. We settled a tax appeal case that had been hanging out in the wind since 2004. And so we were able to settle that for the company to the tune of $124,000. We worked with the Eastern Workforce Investment Board to help them access money for training for their workers so that they could have better qualified workers. And so we were really invested in this company. This was something that we really worked hard. We worked very hard as a group, not any,
no one person, a group.
It was truly, we worked with management at the plant. We worked with the union at the plant. We worked with state leaders. We worked with commissioners. And so this was something, and we worked with Northeast Utilities, helped us out with decreasing some of the energy costs for the mill, and Norwich Public Utilities ultimately settled with the mill by 3 years of no increases. on the sewer side. So as a,
You
know,
went above and beyond,
we
like an
Yeah.
incredible amount.
Yeah.
super hard to
Super
keep it
hard
up.
work,
Yeah,
right,
and,
right.
and so that when Mr. Foley came, he had none of that knowledge that we had actually worked so hard. And usually when a plant is going to close, there are some signs that the plant is going to close. They're not doing their infrastructure repairs. The building is falling into disrepair. That was not happening. There is a labor unrest, and they had just settled an agreement with the union and insisted on it being 6 years long. And then they had settled with the state on the loan, and were accessing the funds and working on that. And they were hiring people, and they were hiring lobbyists up in Hartford again.
Right, so it looked like it was
it really
solidified,
looked like
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So this was not, this was not something that we looked at and said, we haven't done anything for this company. We've just ignored it for the last 7 years. And what have you done? Cathy Osten, first selectman, how dare you let a plant close? We had done a lot to make sure that they were stable for the reasons why all of us were there. It was 145 jobs. We knew it was 145 jobs. We knew they were good jobs. They provided what I call a living wage. It was, it was something that had been around in the town for a lot of years. We had a lot of history, because even before Federal was there, there was a mill there. So this is something that we really looked on as a long-term relationship that we were hoping
This
to
was part of
solidify.
your community.
It is. Really, I have people that live in town whose grandfathers and fathers, and they themselves are slightly, my age or older, and they had worked there, and this was something that we really wanted to see stay. It's it has our heart and soul. It's one of those things that we really cared about. So those are some of the things that we did, and I know I left out a couple. So the day that Mr. Foley came,
Go ahead.
So when
and
Mr. Foley came, we had both management and union there. Two of the workers there were management workers. One was the human resources director, and one was one of the directors there, and two of them were union workers. So it wasn't like we were trying to, as
This
some
wasn't
people.
a setup,
No.
because a lot of people are out there going, well, this must have been like a setup, and that,
No.
people are putting plants in, when people are going out on the campaign trail. That was nothing of the sort.
No, these people lived in the area.
I have a call.
We have to take
a
Ray's call.
friendly call. Yeah, interesting. Hello, Ray. How are you? You're on the air with Father Russ, Senator Osten,
Russ.
and Dominic.
How you doing, Ray?
Who's your guest tonight?
Senator Osten.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm Father Russ's buddy.
Okay.
And one of our local friends that, everybody knows Ray, huh, Ray?
Yep. Who's the gentleman there?
Yeah, well, you know Dominic, my co-host.
Dominic, how are you?
Yeah, Dominic.
I'm good. How you doing, Ray?
Good, Ray?
You looked good when I talked to you at Father Russ.
There you go, there you go.
We're talking about some tomfoolery tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to call, see how you been.
I'm good, Ray. Okay, you good?
Hey, see your friend lately?
Oh, yes.
You see Bob?
Oh, yes, I see Bob. We say hello to Bob. Bob's watching right now. All the folks are watching, yeah.
Where's he living now?
Yeah, he's watching right now. So,
Have you seen him? Tell him
and I'll tell him you said hello and you gotta
Yeah.
drop down and see
have
him.
him on TV again.
Okay.
Bye.
I love you, Ray. Take care. Bless you.
So it was something that we had really, this was not something that we said, what can we do to see if we can contradict Mr. Foley. It really wasn't like that. I wanted to be there. I'm the first selectman. I've already told you how much I care about the plant, and truly, had thought that we were protecting these 145 jobs. And so I wanted to make sure that we were being represented correctly. And I had talked to the union people and let them know that that Mr. Foley was coming.
The union men were right there. He didn't even know the union.
Right, and I wanted them to be there so that they could answer from their perspective, because they're hurt. They worked really hard for their members. They had not just one contract with concessions. They had 6 years of concessions, and were facing another 2 years of concessions. And they really were doing this to protect the jobs, and they had convinced their members of that, and they really believed that, and so they wanted to make sure that their story was told
True.
And management was there, because management said, we know why. Why we have been told we're closing. We were not aware that this was going to happen. They were local managers, not the
not the international.
Right, nothing from we had none of the private investment firm people. So that it was more to let people know and let Mr. Foley know that this was not about policy for us. This was really...
This is a proud community is what it really is. It's
we
a proud
are.
community.
Oh, yeah, it's a great community.
Very proud.
Very proud.
We're not interested in anybody giving us handouts for no reason. We are happy to go to work every day. We're very much a blue-collar town, and it's something that we're really proud to be, and that's truly... We wanted to make sure that no one was saying that we had taken advantage of anybody, or that we had done something wrong, and we really wanted to tell our story because we thought our story was important.
Yeah. And apparently Mr. Foley wasn't interested in anybody, what anybody was saying, and it was, as I have said, and I mean, politically, I believe he shot himself in the foot. I mean, we have people, it was just, to have watched it on TV when I saw it, to have watched what happened there, I really couldn't believe it. I still can't believe that a politician running for governor, I mean, we're not talking about somebody who's running for some little office. You're talking the major office in the state.
Correct.
And he didn't know who he was talking to when he was talking to you. He didn't care.
Right.
I mean, from my perspective, the man, he didn't care. He was very disrespectful to everyone present. And he was out garnishing votes.
Even if you're not in that environment, I mean, he puts himself out there as a business person.
Exactly.
Now, we've all been business people at this table. I've run large organizations. You've run family businesses. You've run too many operations to really know.
Too many. Still running them.
Even that way.
Exactly.
You don't come across that unsympathetic to people or uncaring. I mean, I'm really at a loss for words.
I get a little upset. I watched the insult to you, and I mean, that, you have been so good to marginalize people. I mean, anybody who knows your history and stuff like that, whether they know you personally or what you've done in the disability community, what you've done for women, anybody who knows you locally. I mean, I've only 11, 12 years. I got 12 years in the area. However, I've worked in the area, up in your area, worked with the homeless, worked with the 10-year plan, a lot of stuff, and knew what you have done and stuff like that. To watch that and to see the insults really, really bothers me, and I get off the rails occasionally.
He came across misogynistic. He did.
That's the.
That's the best word that I can really find for it. From my point of view, that's the way I felt when I was looking at the video.
So I didn't really much care about what he said to me because I'm fairly strong-willed and can stand
You're
up
a
for
tough
myself.
lady.
Yeah.
Sort of rough around the edges sometimes. But it really bothered me that he was disrespectful to the people who were losing
around you.
were losing their job.
Exactly.
And those people already have enough on their plate right now today. Those workers who had, in some of their cases, had worked at that mill for 29 years, and they are losing their jobs and have enough to worry about without someone telling them that they were a failure. And they didn't fail at anything.
Nobody's failed out there, no.
No.
I guess not to, is there any kind of alternative that can happen here, or is this?
Well, I think it's pretty much over.
It's-
I have no way to know exactly what the deal was between Open Gate, the private investment firm, with Paperworks in Indiana. Most of those records are private correspondence between an investment firm and another business. But the company, Open Gate, sold the main piece of equipment that's necessary to operate it as a paper mill, and had already signed the papers by the time they told the workers. So they told the workers, and then they called me, and I went to the plant that minute. I was there, within 10 minutes I was inside the plant. And after that, in the next week, I've gotten probably a dozen companies that have called interested in the plant itself. I've had many commercial real estate people come in and get copies of the assessor's cards and maps of the area. The plant is in good shape. It's got Yankee Gas is there, so it's got natural gas. It's got access to sewer. It's got it's in a good position. It's right off, very, very close to off the highway. And it sits in a good spot. It's about 600 acres of land between Sprague and Lisbon. And it has 2 ponds on the property. So it's a very nice piece of property. Has some farmland attached to it that I had worked with one of the local farmers to. He's been growing corn on there. So we're, we were looking at, we've had a lot of people interested. So
there is
hopefully,
some hope.
There's hope there is hope that the building may be something.
That
you know.
can
But I guess it
happen.
goes to the bigger economic picture. I mean, that I know a lot of places face is just the level of corporate responsibility. I think
Right.
is something that seems to have been lost in this country.
It's lost.
You know, when a corporation, used to be, when they set down roots, they, had community participation, they were involved with everybody.
Right.
Like you're talking about, this is like a community
Right.
that's been based around this, and
Well,
people working together.
Well, we had done a lot with that relationship. The paper mill helped us build the skateboard park in town, and they always participated in a food drive. The union would bring food to us, and the company would match it with dollars for our food pantry. We've been doing that for the last 6 years. Since I've been there, we have had that relationship, and it has helped feed people during some very difficult times. And so we have a true community partner.
Community
Right.
partnership, which
This
is
really was important to us.
Well, that's like family business. That's like the kind of stuff that you were going to say to him that you got cut off, or But that with the corporations have done away with that kind of
the
stuff.
investment bankers that think that they can just come in and turn everything around because they don't understand the relationships.
No, that's the tragedy of what has happened.
They're about the bottom line
It is.
and where the money is coming from. They're not really about a
People.
plant and the people that are there.
in the
And
community.
they, in many ways, that's something I think that we lost on the federal government side when we had the trade agreements that did not incorporate some of the labor standards and environmental standards, and it put the companies that are home-based in the United States at a significant disadvantage.
Right, exactly.
And we're not going to pay our workers 25 cents a week.
No.
We're not doing that, and nor should we allow it to happen
we
in other,
shouldn't have.
in other
Exactly
countries.
right. No, we
to
should-
sell products here that are
Right.
made on the backs of workers like that is not something that.
No, it's
is
horrific.
acceptable.
It's morally wrong to do that, and the problem is that we've allowed that to happen, and stuff needs to change. We have to change that environment. I am embarrassed. Is anybody running against you?
Yes, there is. There's a gentleman from Columbia, but he has, to my knowledge, not really been on the campaign trail. So I have, I figure I'm not giving out his name because
No, I don't.
He's not giving out
want
his
his
Well,
name
he's
on
the
my
same
show.
person you faced last time.
Well,
No, was a different one. I thought it was the same person.
It's to me, as far as I know, it's an unknown. That's why I wanted. That's why I didn't.
We'll
make the
leave
big
him
one
in-
and stuff.
we'll leave him in
Leave it
obscurity.
alone.
He can be in
Okay?
obscurity, that's
Because I don't
fine.
want nobody against you. You know, I do want to talk. I obviously. I did a show that you probably never saw, and thank you so much for your involvement
Both of
with
us
the
did. Oh, yeah.
ABI. In fact, you're going to be running it down there at the new TV shows. We're going to be around. We're going to be on 2 or 3 different stations starting
We
14th.
we have one that
around
we
the
are
same-
all set on.
on.
We're actually going to be in the Bridgeport area. We're going to be in
Right.
Bridgeport, Fairfield, Stratford, Milford, Orange, and we're also talking to people in the valley.
And we're up on YouTube now all the time, regularly.
Yes.
Not far, okay? Dominic is the man who's dealing with that, not like Father has done in the past, on and off and everything else like that. So we've been up on YouTube now for few weeks and everything else. So all our folks that see us, tell you other folks that are in other areas that we're
So
doing
we
it.
get to thank you in person for what you did for us.
Oh, yeah, that was,
Because you really, by setting up the forum for us, you gave us credibility and you allowed us to show how much involvement. I mean, I'm sure we were all shocked at how many people showed up and they had overflow rooms and everything
I
else.
think that was great though, because I think that if you're going to have, from my perspective, I think that the best legislation comes out of grassroots movements. And I think people needed to know what was going on. And without having people there, without having that voice, sometimes the disadvantaged get left behind. And this was
They
a
do.
group of people that really needed someone just to speak for them. And I was talking with one of the folks from Columbia, and he said, Edith Sprague was always that voice for those that had no voice. And I said, well, that's exactly what I would like to be, is for that voice for people who have not the ability to speak out.
Which
and
you
that's
have
what
been, and you do. I know from the marginalized people and everything else like that, from our brain injury perspective. Yeah, when we started, initially when I started with Dominic, that's what we talked about. I said nobody understands. I've been in disability for a lot of years. Started with the American Disabilities Act way back when, and always used it low key. On the justice issues, very loud out there all the time. I mean, we tear that place apart. On the death penalty issue, on the juvenile stuff, we fill that place up. I said we need to do, initially back speaking a couple of years, I said you need to do the same thing with the brain injury. People need to see our people. They need to see the people that we deal with so that they know what we're talking about. And when we did that forum, it was so great to sit beside you. I'm going in there and I'm thinking of forum. I don't know what I was thinking of, and it turned into it really that was the springboard that did a lot for the year and our struggling, and then it's continuing now around the state. But you were
thank you.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love doing it. So, I had a constituent up in Columbia Elaine Burns, and she and her son have really worked very hard, and I brought them with me on opening day. I was really pleased